It's long been understood that fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or FASD, has been caused by mothers who drink alcohol during pregnancy. But on yesterday's Eyewitness News reports, we heard new research from Stellenbosch University's Department of Psychiatry, in collaboration with international partners, has found that the drinking habits of fathers can also play a significant role in a child's growth and development. The study, published in Alcohol, Clinical and Experimental Research, analysed data from grade 1 learners in the Western Cape and found that children whose fathers drank during pregnancy were more likely to be shorter, have smaller heads and score lower on verbal IQ tests. Joining us now to explain further what this means is Dr Marlene de Vries. Marlene is the project manager of Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Research at Stellenbosch University's Department of Psychiatry. Marlene, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. That's my pleasure. Good afternoon.
Marlene, these findings, did they come as a surprise to you?
No, not really. I think it's been long a topic of discussion that fathers do have some or other influence on the development of fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. It's been thought for many years that the influence is largely in terms of social contributions via their drinking and the atmosphere that creates for a pregnant woman and may cause further difficulty for women to stop drinking. But there's also been long talk about the possibility of genetic or epigenetic influences, and that just could not be proved until as recently in this article stated. The meaning of this really is that it does not mean that when a father alone drinks that a child will have fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. The disorder is still caused, and the biggest influence is still caused by maternal drinking during pregnancy. But what you could see from our data in this article is that there may be a paternal genetic contribution to the development of fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
Marlene, if I'm understanding you correctly then, it would be the alcohol use of the father prior to pregnancy.
Yes, meaning in the sense of prior to pregnancy, heavy drinking by the father may cause genetic contributions. Whether we do not really know at this time exactly whether it is caused by influence on the quality of the sperm or other influences. So we don't exactly know how it works. Okay. But what we know is that there may be a genetic contribution, but then also during the pregnancy, the father's drinking habits has been proved to influence the mother's drinking habits during pregnancy. We very often find that women are having great difficulty to stop drinking during their pregnancy because their partners continue drinking. They continue drinking in the house, causing some difficulty for them to say no to drinks, or by the way that fathers act during the pregnancy, making life difficult for the women in their lives. So we very often see and hear from women that they have lots of difficulties during pregnancy with, for instance, partners having affairs, not recognizing the child as theirs, or just in no way supporting the woman. And that creates a lot of stress and difficulty trying to stop drinking.
Marlene, in previous years, when I've done interviews about fetal alcohol syndrome, it's always been stated that the science is not clear whether it's one or two drinks or binge drinking that leads to fetal alcohol syndrome. But I know that medicine and science does move very quickly. Has that been revised? Do we know what the turning point is? How many drinks causes fetal alcohol syndrome?
That is the reason why that is never pinpointed is because it is such an individual thing.
Okay.
One woman may drink one drink at a time and still have a child that is affected. Very recent other research has shown that children who had minimal exposure to alcohol during pregnancy, when compared to children who had no alcohol exposure during pregnancy, still showed weaker results in terms of head circumference, growth, and verbal IQ. So we are still staying with our statement and our point that there is no safe amount of alcohol during pregnancy. One woman may get away with one drink or even 2 drinks a day, but the fact is you won't ever know before that child is born, and then it will be too late to change anything about it.
I know, Marlene, that for historical reasons, South Africa was for quite a long time had one of the highest rates of fetal alcohol syndrome in the world. Is that still the case?
That is unfortunately still the case. What we must also clarify about that is that it is one of the highest or the highest number of fetal alcohol syndrome cases where research has been done. So it might be that there are other countries where the problem is worse than in South Africa, but they don't have the research to show it. Our research has just been very good over many years, and we know for sure that we have a huge problem in South Africa.
Marlene, we know that you conducted this particular study with other international partners. Do you want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yes, the study first started around 1997 when Professor Phil May, who was the primary researcher for this fetal alcohol syndrome studies in South Africa over many years, started with work in South Africa after a South African, Dr. Dennis Viljoen, went to the United States to tell them at one of their conferences that he thinks there is a big problem in South Africa. And since then, over many years, really very actively from 1997 and then in 2002 and then permanently from 2008 until the end of July this year, there have been different studies in South Africa looking at a variety of probable causes, of probable ways of prevention, testing several ways of prevention and interventions with mothers. So a lot of what the world knows about fetal alcohol syndrome, they have learned from the research in South Africa.
Lastly, Marlene, before we let you go, we know that Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Day is coming up, and I'm assuming a message that you'd want to give to anybody considering starting a family would just be to lay off the alcohol over this time period. Would that be right?
Yes, exactly. Well, actually, firstly, today is International Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Day. And my advice would be, if you plan a pregnancy, stop drinking before you stop using your contraceptives. The reason for that is simply that most women find out they're pregnant around 3-4 months into pregnancy when some damage has already been done. So to stop any time during pregnancy is always the best option. But the even better option is to plan a pregnancy and to make sure that you do not drink even during or from conception onwards, because that can also, even though it's a small influence, we all know that every person wants to give their child the very best in life, the best opportunities, and we can only do that by also taking the best possible care of their future health. And part of that is not to drink at all during pregnancy. No safe amount, no safe kind of alcohol, and it's a joint decision by both parents of a child to not drink, because one of the important things about this study around the father's involvement and the contribution of fathers in pregnancy, one of the very clear findings was that children the effect on children were worse when both parents drank. So there's no more hiding place for men. We need you men out there to take up your responsibility and to become involved in the health and welfare of your children.
Dr Marlene de Vries, Project Manager at the Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Research Study at Stellenbosch University's Department of Psychiatry. Thank you for joining us.